I put it that way because I don't want anybody to feel any sort of unnatural constraint to what they want to say about their creative output or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, just like
it should be fine.
Please speak as you feel. And if you want to talk about any sketchy shit, just say allegedly.
Allegedly.
And then it's good to go.
Okay.
But I think we're in a good spot. I'm going to go ahead and do the spiel and talk us in here. Hello, everybody. My name is Thomas Zachary, and it's been a long day. But today we're sitting down with the guest to talk about his fabrication business. I guess that's the thing. Fabrication business.
Fabrication business. I guess you could also call it like a race car shop.
Race car shop.
Yeah, I mean
that sounds more fun.
Yeah. Because if you say fabrication businesses are like, oh, cool. So can you build me a table?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I could, but I don't really want to. Yeah. So I'd much rather call it like a fabrication or race car shop.
Well, that works.
I think that'd be good.
I think that's a bit more fitting considering all the chassis you've got in the shop.
Yeah, man. We don't just pick one. But the funny thing is about that is it seems that when I get one chassis, especially if it's a newer car, three follow suit right after.
Well, you've got that C6 Corvette in here right now?
C5 Corvette, and then there's another one that's in here as well for a cage. There's two C5s in here right now.
So they multiply. They just budding, right? Like a sponge, they just multiply by budding.
If that's the case, then they're in good hands because, like I said, we don't discriminate against like different cars and stuff like that. But just like Mustangs, let's count the Mustangs in here right now. So we got 5 Mustangs in here, 4 of which are our customer cars, and they range of all generations except for like the 66 Fastback.
Yeah.
But, most of the cars and stuff that we do deal with are newer bodies or newer chassis within the past 30-35 years. I'd say it's probably a good range of years and stuff cars that we do.
Well, that's a lot.
I mean, it is. It's a lot. And our generation, the cool thing about our generation now is we're getting older. We're starting to make our money. And so the cars that we really enjoyed as a kid, we still like. And now we're buying them up and we're just dumping a bunch of money into them. So there's a lot of really cool 90s cars out there. And that's where a lot of my heart has always lied, is in 80s and 90s Japanese vehicles specifically.
JDM and imports are they hold a special place in my heart. Being a kid from the sticks of East Tennessee. For everybody that doesn't know, I have a dog in my lap right now, and it's really, really trying to make out with me. And it's dogs are cool. But we kind of jumped the shark a little bit. This is the KAAMP, the Knox Area Artist Networking Platform, and today we're sitting down with Chris Miller of Risefab, right?
Yep, that's it.
And we're going to talk about a little bit about the business and hopefully a lot more about how the man got to where he is in the business.
And my goal so far is to try not to get off on a tangent like I already have.
Well, it's okay as he runs around the room chasing dog. No, it's totally okay. Tangents are fine because I'm good at talking to people, or so I think, and I can generally meander all of my questions or inquiries through the conversation pretty well. So I'm not blatantly asking anybody questions in a non sequitur fashion.
Yeah.
But a lot of my normal questions don't really apply to you, so we're just gonna sit here and pick each other's brains about it.
Cool. Okay.
Because normally I would ask people, "Oh, what kind of paintbrushes and colors do you use? What kind of blah,
You
blah,
can still
blah,
ask
blah."
me that, but like it's gonna be like welding equipment and stuff to like shape metal and cuts things.
Right.
So.
It's a different ballpark.
Yeah, but it's the same situation overall.
All right, man. So let's get into it. What's it like being the creative person running the creative business here in East Tennessee?
What it's like? Well, I mean, I don't think about it like that. It's like my day-to-day life. I just really enjoy what I do, and I come in here every day and I try to do better than I did before. So I don't really have a realization of like, damn, I'm the dude, because I don't feel that I am at all. I'm just a guy doing his job.
Right. So what put you there?
Oh, well,
what put you to be the guy doing the job?
My passion. Since I've been driving. Well, actually, before that, so go back to like the early 2000s.
All the way back.
So I'm like 14. I go to Walmart or the grocery store with my parents, and I'm always wanting to get a magazine because at the time, that was the creative media outlet for you to see things around the world was magazines. So I always tried to get a magazine every time we went to the grocery store. Where you had Import Tuner, you had Turbo Mag, you had
Hot Rod, American Muscle.
You did, yeah. I would get a Hot Rod every once in a while. I'd get a motorcycle magazine every once in a while, and I would just try to absorb all the things that I'm seeing.
Fast Mustangs and badass Fords.
Yeah, absolutely. And just anything that like my mind would generate to, I'd go on with that magazine. So I'd get that magazine and see if I like enjoyed that, and I would absorb all that stuff that I'm visually seeing and reading and hearing about, and then just creating in my mind like the things that I really enjoy. I've always been a person that's had hobbies in their life. Just when I was 9 years old, I played paintball. I played paintball up until I was about 16, and I was heavily into it.
Yeah.
Among other things, it was in my neighborhood. If one kid got something, all the kids got it, and then that was like our short-term or long-term hobby that we had, and paintball was no different. Well, the magazines again really set a fire inside of me that's really never died, and that was with cars.
Right.
And so whenever I was able to drive, I bought a 240SX, and because I was a dumb teenager and I had friends that was also into cars, because we were all driving at the time, we decided to take it apart, and we completely dismantled the whole car for no freaking reason whatsoever.
Did you get it
in
over
my
your
mind?
head?
Well, in my mind at the time, I wanted to do this, that, and the other, and like build a car. But I worked at a fast food joint, and then one day I calculated up how long it would take me to purchase just a car part. I think it was like a set of coilovers, and I got like really depressed real quick on that whole scenario. Yeah, so that was a big awakening. But I really wanted to drive the car, so I talked to my friends in again. And at that time, I'm 32 now, and at that time, your friends are willing to do whatever with you as long as it was a fun situation.
Right. Yeah.
So we put the car back together just so I could drive it like my senior year of high school. So that really like jump started working on cars with other people, with friends, making friendships, and then not necessarily fabricating, because I was 16 and I had like a basic hand tool hand-me-down set that was my dad's and my grandfather's. So
you were wrenching at that point.
Yeah, we were wrenching it, and like I've been obviously wrenching on personal stuff ever since then. Fabrication come about I'd say 8 or 9 years ago, and what started all of that really was I couldn't again afford to have other people working on my stuff. It would cost money. It still costs tons of money to build race cars, but at that time, it's even more so because you're younger. You don't necessarily have like your career set forth, and so the next best thing you can do is yourself.
Yeah.
It was again about 8 years ago. I wanted to drift. This was my second car that was specific for me to drift, and it was an SC300. I talked my girlfriend's mom at the time to buy me a tube bender for Christmas.
Was that a tricky conversation?
No, not at all. Actually, no. They were very good to me at the time, and it wasn't expensive. I think it was. I made a deal with them. Like they bought me that. I think the bender was $300, and then I bought a die, and then I just set it up on the floor with an old engine stand, and I had like a little mobile bender. I bent one size tube, and that was for my roll cage, and the first roll cage I did was in my own car, and then it was just a snowball effect. After that, you just collect one tool and one tool and one tool, and then over the past 8 years I've just amassed tools that we need, and I still buy tools weekly, like anything the guys need. Like Andrew was telling me yesterday that he'd love to have a light for his bead roller. So I got on Amazon, which it's super easy to buy tools. Just all right, you got a light coming.
2 days later.
Yeah. So just within the few years I've been doing this, just being able to do business and buy the supplies and things that you need is exponentially easier. So it's not been too hard of a transition, I guess. I think the hardest part for me over the starting the business was just starting the business. Like deciding, hey, I got enough work, and I'm going to quit my day job, and I'm going to just do this every day until I guess I fall over.
Well, what was the day job when you made that decision?
I worked at Excess Power Batteries, which was an actual fantastic stepping stone for me. Scotty was fantastic with me overall as far as like showing me the ins and outs of the aftermarket automotive, which is something that I really needed, I think, to get to this point, because well, I'm in the aftermarket. I consider myself in the aftermarket automotive. We make aftermarket automotive parts. And so I got to see the retail side of things and the large-scale manufacturing side of things. I got to go to SEMA. I got to go to Vegas like 8 times. We got to go to PRI. We got to make relationships that way. And that was something that really helped kind of mold me wanting to do my own thing. If I hadn't done that and I was just in a boring job at like a hotel or something, I don't know that I would have even started doing this. I just kept my passion, which is
you would have had a really cool weekend driver, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I always tell myself if this business thing doesn't work out, I got one hell of a personal garage. I don't know if we'll fit all this crap, but like I'm gonna have like
your stocks.
I can build myself like a super nice car.
Yeah, you've got the setup if anything ever folds. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, just doing the cage for myself and then moving forward, I really liked making things. It kind of sparked my interest within that hobby of cars, of making things and being creative and wanting, again, to do better the next day. And I started to do stuff for friends, like everybody seems to when they have like a little small creative business, especially if your friends are into the same thing.
Yep.
And one friend, two friend, and then word got out that I can do welding, and then somebody asked, well, can you do this, that, and then I rented out a shop in North Knoxville. It's right in Halls, like right when you enter Halls. It was across from the Clayton Homes factory. It was a little 1,500 square foot shop, and I occupied that shop for 4 years, just about, I think. First of it was me and two friends went together on the building, and it was just for personal use. And as a matter of fact, we all like made a pact that it was never going to be a business. And it was, all
right.
Yeah, no, and right. And it was just for our hobby because we all were into drifting. My buddy Austin was a Pro-Am driver at the time, and we needed a place to kind of like work on his car and things, and we all got our own little section. Well, he got out of Pro-Am. I was still working on other people's cars here and there, and at the time it was like one car would come in, I would work on it, get it done, send it out, and then another car would come in, and I would try to kind of schedule it out, and I'd do one car or maybe one roll cage every 3 months or so. And this was about 4 years ago from now. So we're about a couple of years now into having that shop space. And then I just kind of like said, hey guys, if you all don't want this place, let me know. That's fine. I'll buy your part out. And Austin said, yeah, I would, I'm going to do something else right now. I don't need my space. That's cool. Hunter said, well, let me just keep my car there and I'll split rent with you. I said, well, that's perfect. It's working out great. You guys just work on my car whenever you can. I was like, well, that works too. I can do that. So I had 2/3 of the whole space plus the office. And there were some times where we would have probably 5 or 6 cars crammed in there, and I got a lift so I could put cars underneath.
Yeah,
and
space saver
just to kind of like cram as much stuff in there as we could. We worked that out for a couple more years like that, and then it was 2018 is when I decided to actually like quit my job, get the business license, do that whole deal, figure it out. For those of you that don't know, you have about a 5-year window of figuring stuff out tax-wise before you really should like do things correct. And you should always do things correct. Like,
right.
Don't get it twisted. Don't go out and like embezzle money and like not do taxes and then just put zeros for everything. That's not how that works. But you have some leeway in making a mistake here and there and like figuring out how to do it. And if your business is decently sizable, like you have someone working for you and you're doing transactions like thousands of dollars a month even, get a CPA.
Yeah.
They're really not that expensive for what they offer you. And I went into this business being a professional of my craft. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. I didn't go to school for that. I can do the books basically, and I do the books how my CPA wants me to do my books, but she takes care of the rest. So That's the tip for the day if you're starting out your own business and you're wondering kind of what the next moves are.
Have people that know what they're doing do the things you don't know how to do.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly how I go about this whole venture. Like, I don't have to be the best at every single thing in there. I just have to surround myself with people that are not only equally passionate, but know more than I do in that field. And that team is what helps create this business here. Absolutely. Like, we all have our strong suits, and we all try to bring that strong suit together to create the finished product.
Well, who do you have under the roof here?
So right now we have I have myself, and then there's 3 other people here. Andrew Bonham is my lead fabricator. We have Joel Thacker, who does all of my 3D design, the rendering. He does all the stuff that maps out the product as far as like the bolts that we need, the hardware, cut paths, all that stuff for the machine shop. And then I have a part-timer that comes in after high school, and he's the general laborer, shop sweep learner. He started to hang out a few months ago, and I just simply asked him, I'm like, hey man, do you want to like get paid to hang out here? And it was kind of neat because I have to think about back when I was 16, how kind of dumb I was overall,
right,
and try to be his guiding light in all this, because he come upon this just liking welding, not liking cars, but now he's starting to really enjoy cars and trucks, and so he has all these like crazy ideas, and we have to like, we're not polite about it. Let's be frank.
You rein him in a little bit.
We're like, no, that's not going to work, and then also we're like, it's going to cost you a shitload of money to get this silly idea that has like no meaning and no purpose behind it done.
So you're giving the kid a lot of context.
Yeah, we're trying to. And he kind of come up here thinking that we was going to be able to do a bunch of like silly projects like we're on some kind of YouTube video. And it's a business at the end of the day, so it's not necessarily always the case. You know, we have a good time in here and we cut up, and we thoroughly enjoy making fun of him. But, you know, it's still business at the end of the day, and we got bills we got to pay and families we got to feed. So we try to make that happen. And I think as far as over the years, that's the hardest part about being a craftsman and also trying to run a profitable business, because in this game of building building custom cars, not even race cars, because mostly, like, if you look at like a race shop like M Sport that builds rally cars for Ford, they just build like the same car over and over and over. They know exactly every single cent, and then the money that's paid is corporate money. This is different. Like, we want to give a customer a bespoke, custom, handmade thing that looks really, really nice at the end of the day, but we also want to eat. And so
there's not two cars in your shop right now that are getting the same treatment.
No, not at all. I mean, we get cars that get the same treatment, but they're different chassis, so they have their own, complex problems and solutions that has to get figured out.
Yeah, there's no cookie cutter stuff here. It's all 100% bespoke.
Not yet. I mean, we still have to follow like a rule book for a lot of the race cars that we do. Every once in a while, we'll get some kind of like a hot rod that'll come in here, and the person says, I want this turbo hung in this general area, but all the other stuff, have at it. And that's fun. It's always nice. Or Andrew will get in a bead rolling project, and he's able to just do some bead rolling art on a particular panel that goes inside of a race car or a custom hot rod or whatever the case may be. And so we have those creative outlets to be able to charge for, but as the business owner, I have to try my best to give that same quality but make the money at the end. And I think that's been the challenge. I have no answer for it, really. It's just sometimes you go over the time that you really need to on a particular thing, and morals come down to it, and you just simply can't charge the customer for doing things that are artistic, I guess you could say.
There's in my experience doing what I do, and you know what I do for a living. You know my boss, you know the whole ordeal, but there's that thin line between how much time can I spend making this cool versus how much time it takes to get it done. And that's, absolutely. You have to dance on that line sometimes.
We do it daily here because every one of us in here are extremely creative minds. Like, we can go off and talk about builds that are completely hypothetical for hours and have a full car built within like a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah.
No problem. We love that stuff. So that carries over to when we do projects, and sometimes I'll have to tell Joel, tell Andrew that, like, listen, we gotta chill out. It's only meant to do this particular function. Let's make it look clean, because it shouldn't just look haggard. Nothing should just look half done, but not necessarily have all the pizzazz that it needs, because most of our customers have budgets, and whenever we have the customer come in here, we try to figure out what their budget is and try to stick within that budget. Now, we get lucky every once in a while and have a little bit more of a open checkbook and freedom type situation, but those are only like a few times a year.
Yeah, those don't roll in the shop every week.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's nice when they do.
Oh, absolutely, and they're a lot more fun, and you get to know for those long-term projects, you get to know the customer a lot more. A lot of these quick turnaround stuff, they're in and out. I'm lucky to remember their name, but like a lot of these other long-term stuff, you actually get to know the person, and you create new friendships along that, which is really neat.
I mean, I can definitely say I've experienced the same thing in my line of work, being all up in all the things I have my hands in. They're in the shop right now, for instance, there's like a transit van, like a 2500, just a parts hauler van, essentially.
You all get a lot of commercial stuff,
right?
We
do, yeah.
Is that like the bread and butter is the commercial stuff?
Yeah, that's the moneymaker stuff, because it's high volume, and the installs are generally less laborious.
And the customer is less picky. It just has to, like, it says Wonder Bread on the side. It's got to say Wonder Bread on the side.
Right, and then in that context, we can make it as hard on ourselves as we want.
Yeah.
But generally, commercial stuff in the vinyl industry is where a lot of people make the majority of their money.
Cool.
Like color change is one thing. Stripe accents, packages, those are another thing. Hood wraps, roof wraps, trunk wraps, all those are their own beast. But generally, commercial stuff is what's paying the bills.
What's your favorite thing to do?
I like the weird stuff, and by weird stuff, I mean it's when people call the shop and they're like, "Hey, can y'all do this?" We've called 5 other shops and nobody said yes. And usually we can figure out a nice budget-friendly way to make all the things happen for the people. And then sometimes you just have to tell them no, because what they come at you with is just so outlandish. But right now, Harper, Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi, all that stuff, they're one of our customers, clients. We have a good relationship with them, and they're doing some really silly stuff with a lot of their parts vans that I'll tell you about off mic.
Oh, okay.
And we have one of their demo Taycan Turbo S's in the shop right now that I will also tell you about off mic, because I don't think I'm currently at liberty to disclose what they're doing with their stuff.
So nice.
Yes, they are. And this one's all black with the bronze wheels and like a light brown beige-ish interior, which isn't my favorite. I've seen other models of this car with a nicer interior. But the black on bronze, oh my God.
Man, I'm not an electric car guy, but that one, I would own that one, absolutely.
I would own that one as well. There's not a lot of cars that come into the shop that I would not enjoy, I'll say that. Because I'm like, in the realm of car person enthusiasts, like I like all cars.
Yeah.
Like, obviously I have a preference to some things and some makes and some models, but like cars are cool because they're cars.
I have started to enjoy more cars as of recently. I don't know if that's just getting more mature and just like understanding what this person probably had to go through. I'm very sympathetic for people's builds almost. They had to go through a lot to get this particular thing, because I've done A to Z on it, so like I understand what they had to go through, and going to car meets and seeing something neat and has a lot of like creative thought and I don't know, it's like they're I'm a lost words.
Well, they've sat there and thought about it and put a lot of energy. They're emotionally invested and they're intellectually invested.
Yeah. Their personalities come out. That's what I was trying to think of. Their personalities come out into the car, and so it's really neat to talk to them and to see their stories and to see how excited they are. And that's probably one of my favorite things about the car community in general, is just like seeing other people's stories all the time.
And I enjoy when people start talking about hard to find parts.
Yeah.
And if you're a JDM guy in the United States, sometimes there are lots of parts that are hard to find.
See, that's why I went out. I used to love Corollas. Let me rephrase it. I still really love Corollas, but I just don't want to own one. It's not the right time in my life, especially right now, to own a Corolla.
Dude, money and parts for an 8.6 are crazy right now.
They are silly. But I've had 5 of them. Whenever I got out of 240s, I had an RX-7. It was a piece of crap. Blah blah blah. That's everybody's story. And then I found a Corolla, and at one point, I had like 5 engines. We would find them locally and just like dismantle them for parts because we thought that we would just covet and use them. And that was my first bout into drifting. Louis, your boss, started East 10 Drift, and I found it on Facebook at the time, and I simply loaded the car up with a set of spare tires that I just bought and a jack, and I had somebody follow me to Chilhowie Park.
Yep. I was going to say it's either that or Smoky Stadium.
It was Chilhowie. That was my first one, and then I went out there and I just tried. I just made sure I had all the things that I thought I needed or whatever else to go out there and just try.
So what'd you forget?
No. As far as the car, I don't think that we forgot anything because we had, drinks, food, the jack, the tire, like simpler times.
Right.
Man. We fit it all within like just the Corolla to go out there. We didn't have to have like an enclosed trailer because we drove the car there and drove that. They didn't have to have an enclosed trailer. They have to have a bunch of tools and crazy shit and warming the cars up. No, it was just you go out and you drove. You drove and you figured it out, and it was really good. I look back on that stuff, and that was like. That's what drifting should be, but it's easily not for someone that is a hobbyist. But if someone really enjoyed driving, that's all it should be, is like doing driver mods to make the driving experience better without going too crazy. And I'm a firm believer of that. I just do not practice what I preach anymore.
Well, you have access to a lot of tools.
That's the thing, like tools and know-how, and it just makes it snowball a lot easier. And people to provide you with parts and the relationships you have, like just starting out if I was to start out and I built a car today and it's the first time I ever built one and I'm just into cars, it would be very expensive and very hard for me to do most of the things that I'm doing just my own personal car. So it does help. Yeah, it absolutely does help that.
But for it to be said, a modest build and the intent to go thrash it will take you a long way in having fun.
Drifting wise, absolutely. Yeah. Smiles for miles. That's
for sure.
It. So yeah, I think it's been a good ride so far. But the Corolla is what got me drifting. And if I hadn't have got the Corolla and done that, I might not even have been here. I mean, you can look back and say that butterfly effect or whatever. But yeah, it's what got me into drifting and what forced me to start fabricating, to working on my own stuff.
Forced you to start because you had to?
I had to because I didn't have any money and I wanted to drive, so it was just like, well, I have to make these things.
So did you put a cage in that car yourself?
No, I did not. Okay, so that was one of the reasons that, going back to the hard to find parts, it was getting harder at that time to find parts. And it was like exhausting because if I wanted to find anything that improved the car or made it look good, you had to really look on forums, and at the time Club 4AG was a big one, and that's what made it easier. But when Facebook started to get more of that audience and forums started going to the leeway, so did rare Japanese parts, because it was harder for you just to search and find it really quickly. And so I got into the SC300. I found this car in Pennsylvania. I had a truck and trailer we just got, so I could start again going to drift events and having an actual truck and trailer. We went up to Pennsylvania. Me and my dad picked this car up. It had already had the 1J. It was non-VVTi 1J, and had a
like a welded rear end.
No, it didn't have welded. It was. I absolutely love LSDs, and it had a Cusco 2-way.
Okay.
And so, I had a Kaz 2-way. It had Kaz 2-way, and it had a few bushings here and there, and it had like a seat, and it was like it was ready to go. It was like he already took it to a few drift events. It was tried and true. So I was like, perfect, I can get in this thing and drive it immediately. So we get it here, and the only thing that I did was, since it was a northern car, was I took the subframe, the engine out, all the suspension bits. I dropped those. I cleaned up everything that I possibly could, and this is the best part. I went to the Lexus dealership and I bought bolts. that was what I'd been missing the whole time with Corollas, was being able just to go down to the store and buy what I needed. So I used the internet. I got every single bolt part number. I went to Lexus. I bought all the bolts and I put everything back together. And then I enjoyed that car until I ran it to a wall at Bowling Green, Kentucky.
So was it oversteer or understeer? Which end of the car hit the wall?
It was definitely the ass end. It was too hard up into the wall, and it swung me back over. We ended up actually hammering a lot of it out and drifting the rest of the day.
There you go.
But me overthinking and younger into drifting at the time, I was like, oh, this thing's trashed, which it absolutely probably wasn't. And so I found it was a driving car for $500, and we just stripped it out, and that's the car I put the first cage in. Okay. Which I sold that to a buddy. I see that car every once in a while around town.
Oh, that's nice.
Meets and stuff. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I like it when you see your old work just kind of bebopping around.
I do and I don't.
Well, I mean, it gives you the flashback to what was happening right then because you remember.
So with drift cars, this is how I feel about my personal drift cars. The car itself, the chassis, is a tool. It's a tool to do your job.
Yep.
If you drive hard enough, things will happen. If you really covet the car itself, the body and stuff, then your feelings are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So I covet things like like the drivetrain and like the interior bits, like steering wheel, things I can take off the car and put it on another car.
Right. Yeah.
So I enjoy nerding out about that stuff. But when it comes to the outside, we make drift cars personally. No, not for customers. We try to give the customer exactly what they want. But for my own personal car, if they look good 25 feet away and they're like crisp and they take a good picture, that's all I care about. Other than that, I know they're going to get thrashed.
Well,
not a concourse car by no means.
Right. Well, you can only make a car that does that job look so good and still do that job.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, especially with the M3 that I have now, is the car is so damn cut up that a third of it is all composite, and all the composite panels are held together with like zip ties, screws, and some fancy brackets and stays that we'll end up making. I mean, the car is made to literally get crushed in multiple feet and then pop back out. Right. So yeah, they're going to look haggard after the first few times that you do that.
Yeah, Kevlar fenders are amazing.
Oh man, so we have been really nerding out in here on composite stuff. We have not pulled the trigger yet, but that is something that we really want to just as a team here learn. Not necessarily to make parts and products. I mean, it works out that way, whatever, but to at least know how to make carbon fiber, carbon Kevlar, full Kevlar like composite pieces. It's a really cool road to go down, and it's not hard to learn about. There's a bunch of really good YouTube videos on composite stuff.
I know a gentleman from back in my local motors days that does energy research now for coal and whatnot.
Yeah.
He does research on carbon, but he was the composites and carbon fiber guy at Local Motors.
Oh, cool.
And I need to reach out to him, but this reminded me that he knows his shit, and I'd like to put you in touch with him if you would like that.
So what we're going to do, and how I kind of go about asking people questions, is instead of overloading them with a bunch of simple stuff, we try to really mess up first on something, and then like come up with a list of questions as to like why,
right?
And then that way I can have more of a personal conversation with the person that knows what they're doing.
Plus, you have like some hard points that you want answers for. Like you're not just coming to somebody and going like, "Hey, dude, this thing."
How I do this? How I do it? Make do things.
Right. Yeah. It's like this messed up, and I don't really know why. Can you help me out a little bit? Is a more pointed question.
Exactly. So yeah, we're gonna see about doing that because Andrew's 370 is pretty wild, and it's going to get to the point where we're going to have to make custom panels and ducting for it because it's so cut up that there's not a lot aftermarket wise that will
just plug
work
and play
with. Yeah, not necessarily plug and play, just like work with the whole design of how we think that the air should flow around the car and play with that and learn and stuff. And the big thing that we try to take away from our personal cars is to learn. So if you see our personal cars and you're like, well, why'd they do that? It's probably because we just did it just to try it.
Somebody said, how's this going to work?
We're just trying stuff out sometimes. No, a lot of the cars that we build they make sense, but there's some things that we just try.
Yeah, I mean, and as you should, because if you're not trying, then you're not push an envelope in some form or fashion.
Sure.
Especially with stuff like this, where everything is so quantifiable and can be boiled down to such black and white. Like, where's the gray area? Where's the weird shit? Like, where's the stuff I've not seen anybody do
Absolutely.
before?
And if you're not failing at stuff, then you're not learning anything either, because you're not able to figure out why it failed. So yeah,
there's a lot of really exciting stuff outside of Kevlar in the components world, and I want you to like dig into that because there's a lot of research going into new fiber composites that aren't like graphene or carbon or Kevlar or fiberglass or anything. Like, there's like more natural derived fibers that people are really putting in and getting the same results out of.
Oh, really? Like strength wise?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, weight and strength.
Yeah. If you have any type of articles and stuff like that you want to send me,
I'll please do. Next time I see one come across my feed, I'll send it your way.
Yeah, definitely do it, and I can send it to Andrew and Joel both.
It's exciting stuff right now.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting.
Well, I mean, things technology-wise just progress so freaking quickly. We were talking about that. We got a new 3D printer, and it's plug and play. And I told Joel, I'm like, man, 5 years ago, there's no way this printer could be half this, especially for the price.
5 years ago, it would have been 10 times more expensive and taken up most of the room as well. Yeah. The miniaturization of that technology has been crazy, and that from just a tool standpoint, the complexity of that tool and the capabilities one outweighs the other by so much, because these relatively simple boxes that you can put on a desktop nowadays can make whatever almost you imagine, and it's great.
We use it for rapid prototyping, and it's extremely accurate. So it goes from like the idea, Joel making that idea, and then taking that idea and making it into a tangible thing that you can hold in your hand, and you can check clearances, making sure it operates correctly, make sure it fits what you're trying to put it on, so on and so forth, to see if there's anything that he needs to correct. And it's extremely cheap to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. And that's one thing that we've been trying to do here is grasp the technology that we can afford.
Because the prices for those things are going down all the time.
They are.
And associated scanning equipment and softwares that use those things and talk between them. Like, the whole sphere of that is becoming super accessible.
I can't wait for additive printing, like metal 3D printing, to really grasp that same deal, where it's like people are 3D printing metal stuff in their homes.
Dude, give it 5 years.
Oh yeah,
for real.
I believe
that's it.
Yeah, or I don't even have to like touch a welder anymore. I just make it print, and then I just fit the part up and then run with it. I mean, there's already exhaust manifolds and stuff now, turbo manifolds now, that are made from 3D printing Inconel, and they're a bolt-up sellable item that people use on Porsches.
And also, Inconel is a crazy custom-made metal. The Air Force and NASA uses it all the time. It's been on SR-71 Blackbirds. Like, it's a crazy material. And
the material itself it acts fantastically to heat.
Oh yeah,
it's so heat resistant.
Well, that was one of the reasons they wanted to use it on the Blackbird. Mm-hmm. And all the thermal management of that particular metal is so nice.
The downside to it, though, is it is very expensive.
It is stupid expensive.
Yeah, if we're making manifolds in here, majority of the stuff is made from like 321 stainless, which is a fantastic stainless as far as heat goes. From there, 347, and then from 347 to Inconel, but most of the stuff is 321 that comes out here.
So where would you use Inconel? Like turbo setups and stuff like that?
Yeah, if it was an open checkbook build,
right.
And then also that it was meant to live in a really hot environment. Or a high demand environment, like if you had a professional rally car, for instance, like WRC probably uses Inconel manifolds, and we're starting to see that kind of trickle down into consumer goods. I think it's Full Race makes Inconel manifolds for like the EcoBoost Mustang. Their casted material is Inconel, and it makes like I said, a really good product for in a situation where it has a lot of heat, like an exhaust manifold. But that would be the primary reason that I would use it here. I have not come across any situation or customer wanting to use that exotic metal in another form or part of the car. Yeah. Most of the stuff that we use here is like mild steel stainless, a lot of aluminum, and then titanium.
There are a lot of metal printed titanium exhausts on the market now. Mm-hmm. I know one of the big people that's been using them for a hot minute is Koenigsegg. Mm-hmm. They've had those for a while. I think the Ford GT most recently. I don't know if parts of it were printed or not, but it was full titanium exhaust.
New Bugatti had their tips are 3D printed now.
Yeah, there are more and more companies starting to use additive metal manufacturing as a single stage process.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I'm excited about it. I heard from one guy, though, that he said that he thinks the automotive market's used to essentially advertise for additive manufacturing because it's just a sexy thing to do it. You know, like putting a part that's being 3D printed on a Ferrari race car is sexy. It is cool.
Yeah,
it does make you.
But the Ferrari helps.
Money. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that being said, Bugatti, Koenigsegg, whatever other race teams, like those are all high dollar outfits, and this is not a cheap thing. And the stuff that they're printing for these cars are not small objects either. So there's that.
And honestly, I think 3D printing for that particular purpose is like is kind of silly. Like he touched base on like how a 5-axis CNC machine could do what most people are coming out with, and they're not even really using what they could be. Like their minds haven't opened up yet to the possibilities of like 3D printing things out of metal, because it's at that point it's only as endless as the machine let you make it. Right. You know, the size of it that you can manufacture that piece.
The build volume is a lot of the constrictions, and you know, luckily I make a lot of small things. I don't really have that issue in my creative pursuits.
When we do, we just make it in multiple pieces and make it snap and click together, or we glue it together so that way we can check it out.
Well, you're using that for testing purposes essentially, so it's not like you need a structural part that you can just slap in there.
Yeah, not really, no. Phone call.
I talked a lot about 3D printing with Ben Fields the other day on his podcast, just talking about like printed houses and stuff. I'm really excited about 3D printed houses.
Do they? Is it just like extruded concrete?
Yes, but it's a very special concrete.
So because it just bonds to itself, so it's not.
And it's really stiff.
Cool.
Like on the get go,
Is it still like a natural thing like concrete is, or is it? Oh, okay. Yeah. They just changed the mixture.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of ways to play with concrete, chemically. So they do. But I mean, I didn't say that to get harping on it, but like that's the cool shit. That's the shit I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that technology can help, like people have a home or have a product or have something that is previously unimaginable happen. Yeah, man, that's great. That's really cool.
And people will print, full houses, like, you'll do a regular concrete slab foundation and a normal roof, but your floor plan and your walls and everything will be printed, or they'll make, what's the word I'm looking for? Modular wall systems.
Yeah.
And that's also really popular nowadays. I've seen fully 3D printed structures, and I've seen, modular homes that are made with 3D printed components, and there's room for it in every aspect of a workflow or a build ethos, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So there's room for it all over the place. But that's the crazy stuff that I look forward to. But one of the things that really set you and how you do your business apart, in my opinion, is that you have this technology. You have a guy that knows how to use it, and you ain't scared to do it.
Man, you adapt or die. That's true with any business. You figure out how to make $1 and then not necessarily do it better or differently than the next guy, but make sure that the world itself doesn't pass you by. Like there's definitely a market for a guy that beats a panel by hand, and I have mad respect for that, absolutely. But you're going to have like a particular clientele that wants that particular hand, like true handmade beaten thing. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for you to manufacture stuff. That's the reason that we've been going to more technologically advanced. Well, not technologically advanced stuff. The reason that we're going to like better tooling, having more like a 3D printer, 3D scanner, having Joel in there that does the design stuff. The reason that we have that is so that we can make things to the same quality but quicker, and that's not necessarily to make a buck. It's just so that we can make the products that we need, because what we're trying to do and moving forward is making our own products, selling our own product line, having retailers sell the product, and then the cars that we actually build in here will be a lot less. It'll be more personalized clientele, and then we'll be able to almost breathe a little bit more, because we'll have the income coming in, the bread and butter, so to speak, would be the parts and the things that we're selling, the things that we're getting machined out of house. All those things can be sold, and then that's our income. And then the stuff that we're building in here and enjoying and trying to always enjoy will be more enjoyable because we're not like so stressed at getting that done just to move to the next car and so on and so forth.
And then that comes back around. All the stuff that you use as a sandbox on your personal vehicles loops back into how you work your workflow in the professional context. Now I know there's things that I've picked up from other mediums, other workflows, other professions and arenas of creative work that I've since applied to my painting, my digital sculpting, whatever, and you never know where that's going to come from.
Yeah.
So having space to breathe and time to enjoy those things and to try those things is never a bad thing.
Right, no doubt. And to touch a little more on that, like one thing that we set here is this is our job. This is also our passion, but we also need to stop. Like we really probably would be in here working 10, 12-hour days, no problem. But we need to have that cutoff. So we leave at 5, sometimes 6, whatever. But we leave and we go home to our families. We have dinner. We watch TV. We try not to think about it as much. Me less, since it's, I own the business. I'm thinking about this place 24/7. But, we also have weekends off. And then that's so that we can come here Monday with a good game plan, a fresh mind. We're not stressed out to death, and we're able to work out through the week and then just jam out and get work done.
Yep.
Now that comes with a little bit of logistical scenarios. Like I can't be out in Knoxville running around all day long because I only got 8 hours to spend in here making stuff and getting customer stuff out. So I try to have a lot of stuff shipped in, but that's just been, growing pains and things like that. And, the business is just ever evolving on what sells, what doesn't sell, and what these guys need, because they're human beings and they have wants, desires, and then also they have, good days and bad days. And so we just try to all work together as one team and make sure that everybody's happy and accounted for.
So it's you and 3 other guys? 2 other guys?
Two main people that do work, and then
the part-time.
Yep. And
part-time guy. You've got a pretty tight ship here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've made it up as I went along, man. I really, I'm stubborn about asking questions, and I should ask more questions, but going back to, not knowing the questions to ask.
Yeah.
I make up a lot of this as I go along, and I hope I'm doing right.
Well, from where I sit, watching, you as a professional craft things that I enjoy as a hobby and a passion, it looks like you're doing it right from where I sit, because you're making stuff and your guys are making stuff. And I'm just like, damn, that's cool, And when I sat there and I can look at the things with as much detail as you care to put out to social media, and I'm just like zooming in and looking at stuff.
Good, I'm glad you do, because that's what we try to make things for people that do that. And then also, it's like we're making stuff for other fabricators, because we know what we're going to look at, and I can't look through your eyes, so I don't know what you're actually thinking, and so we just can make things not only to the best of our ability, but how we envision them and picture them.
Yeah.
And so, we make things for other fabricators at the end of the day.
And that makes me really happy, because you've set up an environment and surrounded yourself with people that also have that drive. I want to make cool stuff, not because it's cool, but because it's cool and I can make it.
Man, I'm lucky to have 2 dudes that literally live, eat, and breathe this stuff, and that isn't very common. I'm sure I'll have employees in the future that this is their job, and I have to understand that.
That's just what they do for money during the day.
Exactly, and I have to as a business owner, delegate how they need to do their job. But for these 2 dudes, no, it's a pretty good unison deal where we come in here, we have our tasks, and then what's the word, synergy.
Yeah.
Synergy. Yeah. And we get stuff done. We don't have to we don't bicker, we don't fight, we don't argue. Sometimes we come up with 3 separate ideas, and when that happens, we literally just pick one, because there's almost no bad ideas. It's just different ways to kind of go
right.
It.
1,000 ways to skin a cat is one of the things I like to say
that's
a lot.
The only thing that I do is from the business aspect is if they get too wild, I'm like, no.
Listen, guys.
Bring it back. That's too much material. That's too much time. He only has so much money. We can't go that crazy, but that would be cool.
Right.
Yeah. So that's probably the only time that I ever shoot stuff in the foot is when I'm no, it's probably too expensive. But that's just part of being a business owner.
I like when you find that red line about where this would be really cool, and they're like, maybe I should call the customer and ask. Because there have been times Lou and I have been sitting around at work and just like this idea hit us, or we'll be back and forth about something, and we'll come up to a thing, and we'll just be like, man, we really should call this person and run this by them.
Sometimes we've done stuff for free because we thought that the customer absolutely needed that. One case in point is we had a S197 Mustang that come in, and it had like a skeleton dash. So like had the dash pad, the top part of the Mustang dash, but everything in between it was just panels missing. So Bonham Andrew bead rolled a panel that went into the center of that, and then made a center console right underneath it, and then it had a 4-speed dog box. And for you that don't know, it's an older like side shift one, so the shifter come outside of the tunnel, and so you have to create a cover. Well, whatever was there was just some kind of like sheet screwed hand bit thing, and I've drove this car, so I know it got really hot, so we just made a really nice box cover, and he was really, really appreciative of that. But there's no way that we would have felt right doing all that nice bead roll to the dash and then had this like haggard cover thing on the side where his leg was. So yeah, like we sometimes give away stuff for free if we feel like that it's like needed.
Sometimes that happens because you can't, like you said, you can't do all this nice stuff and then have this, eyesore right next to it.
Yeah, it's the creative side of us. It's the passion part. That's when the passion side comes out more than just the business side.
And that's damned if you do, damned if you don't sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of being a creative person in general. Because the ideas are always coming wherever you get them from.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's hard to rein yourself back sometimes and say no for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So it's hard to draw that line.
Yeah. And other people see it too. So your work should always be your calling card. Whether you put your like physical name on it with a stamp or a badge, like. All your work should really be its own card, and so just kind of always keep that in your mind. If you're doing anything, any type of creative thing that you're selling, then you should put your whole heart into it. And if you're not, then you should figure out why you're not, and if that's even the thing that you want to do.
That why you're not part though is really difficult.
Sometimes people fantasize about all the glory, and when it comes down to the work, it's not necessarily that they can't do it, it's that their heart isn't really in it. They just fantasize about the glory, and their hobby in it is literally just like thinking how cool it would be. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what you should be doing.
Right.
Yeah, that's I think that just comes with age and figuring out what you want to do.
Well, in my creative practice, I'm 30 years old now. I turned 30 last March. And I know from when the time I was, 14, 15, 16, that I had a really set core group of influences.
Yeah.
And the only thing they've done since then is grow. But I also know that I have a very specific style that I've been working on that I didn't know I was working on since then. Until like the last 2 or 3 years, like the piece I gifted you, the pinstripe style that I've been working on.
That's perfect for this automotive shop. That's a perfect gift.
And I had some of those laying around, and I figured you might like it, so I brought it. But I've been reading Hot Rod magazine since I was like 12, and whatever other automotive publications. Like I read Autoblog almost every day.
Oh,
like, I'm car nut through and through. So
I like Jalopnik.
Jalopnik's great too. Drive is also pretty good. I get on there every now and again.
Yeah. I keep up with like gossip on there. Like if the Yaris GR isn't coming to America, I get really mad that I'm reading the article on Drive. Yeah.
I want the Yaris GR so bad.
Supposedly, now I've not looked at the rumors since hearing about this rumor, but they're supposed to be doing that same engine setup in Corolla. And we're going to have like a Corolla GR. Don't know if it's going to be all-wheel drive or not, but it's supposed to be.
If it's not all-wheel drive, color me disappointed.
No kidding. But it's supposed to be a turbo car. So
I'll take a turbo, but absolutely. Can I get 2 extra driven wheels?
Well, the thing about it is like we grew up in U.S. where turbo cars were not like they were throughout the rest of the world. And so like the things that we covet are things that's so prevalent. And so it's funny because we still have that mindset. So when a turbo car comes out, we're like, yeah, it's a turbo car, but honestly,
the rest of the world's like, okay.
Well, not only that, but like we're going to get used to it for too long because there's going to be a lot to get good fuel efficiency. It's going to be small displacement and turbo vehicles. So we're going to get like an insurgence of those next few years for sure.
I right now certainly don't mind the right sizing ethos for all the corporate powertrains. Now Audi has been really leading the pack with smaller displacement, higher compression ratio turbo shenanigans.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's totally fine. But the American market is so not used to turbos because anytime you would get a turbo in the 80s or 90s and even the early 2000s, it was not that great. Mm-mm. And there were good American turbo cars, but they weren't mass produced, or they weren't like really well received. But
they're like a Buick Grand National, that type of special edition things, or like a turbo 4-cylinder Fox body. That's like super rare. But.
And then you had like the Eagle Talon and the Mitsubishi, like those cars you had a turbo option.
Matter of fact, that was the first turbo car I ever rode in, was a Talon TSI.
Well, there you go.
90s kid, man. It's just like, I think that's what everybody's first turbo experience was.
I remember the first time I saw a 3000 GT. And I thought that
your mind was blown.
Dude, I was like 7 or 8 at my grandpa's convenience store in the middle of tiny small town East Tennessee, and I was just like, what is that? All these vents and the wide tires and the wing. What is this?
First Fast and Furious come out when I was 12, and so like black Civics, that's it. That's what I wanted. I wanted like anytime there was a Civic that passed by me with underglow, I was like, damn, dude, that's a Ferrari could have like zoomed past me at 200. My eyes would still been set on that black Civic.
Yeah.
I have actually never owned a Civic in my life, but like when I was 12, buddy, that was it.
Yeah, and I feel like automotive culture got a big boost from Hollywood and entertainment industry around that time, because absolutely. Once the first and second Fast and Furious movies came out, everybody's like, oh shit, car movies. Yeah,
for sure. I think they're trash now, but I think the last good Fast and Furious was Tokyo Drift, but that's not because I like drifting. I just think that was the last one that was like literally about cars.
Car movie, quote unquote.
No, I think that it's a stupid storyline and it offends me.
Well, Hollywood, bigger, better, that whole thing.
But they're pretty much just like car-oriented XXX movies.
Yeah, which is fine if you want to go to the movie theater and see a bunch of stunts and crazy stuff blow up, which is cool, and that's a lot of reason some people go to the movies. But
there's no denying that it was huge on the motor scene, import scene, definitely.
No doubt. The what was the MK whatever, the Supra?
Mark IV Supra?
Yeah,
it's been a legend ever since.
Yeah, it has. The orange
only
one.
Because COVID has made them ridiculous, but they were still kind of ridiculous before. Even I think like 2008, they were still blue booking for $20,000.
Man, the used car market right now.
That's a whole other podcast in itself.
Yeah, it really is
silly.
But I've loved cars. I've always loved cars, and I really appreciate how people do with automobiles in general, because I'm mechanically minded, but I'm not mechanically skilled enough to go out and do a lot of things. So if you sit here and you tell me you do all these things to whatever vehicle, I'm totally going to understand the bullshit you just told me, and I'll know how you did it most likely, but I can't go do it. Right. So that's the next best thing for me.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me recently, is it just artists and musicians on your podcast? And I was like, well, no, I just haven't got anybody else, in there yet. And I was like, some guy that builds a tube frame chassis, whatever, in his garage is equally as valid in my eye under the scope of creative as that. And then I got to thinking a couple days after that, I was like, who in the hell do I know? And then I shot you a message. So the world is small in a good way for me when I go to have these conversations. Yeah,
and I think you're in a really creative city too. I love Knoxville.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love Knoxville, and it's there is just a lot of amazing people that make stuff. No matter if bar of soap, man, there's creative people that make soap.
And there's some really good soaps out there.
No kidding.
Yeah,
for sure. And then the food, the food is next level here, and it's a huge melting pot of a bunch of different stuff. And we were talking about breweries earlier. Just a lot of there are woodworkers popping up here recently, leather craftsmen, shoe repair people. I get
cobblers.
Cobblers. That's what they're called. I get an 85-year-old woman to tailor me jeans, and I could not be more proud of having someone take $20 pair of jeans and making them to $100 pair of jeans.
Yeah,
that is cool as hell to me. I have a custom pair of friggin' jeans. That's neat.
Yeah,
but for her, that's just like it is here. It's just a day. It's just another day off. Yeah, it's just things that she does.
I have a lot of creative friends, being the creative person that I am, and I love supporting them. And Elena, she's Lucky Clown on Instagram. She makes custom cut and dyed clothing. And I'll hit her up once or twice a year and be like, hey, you need to make me one of these in these 3 colors. Can you do that? And she'll just be like, hell yeah, I can do that. And, I let her run a little wild with the stuff I get from her because I trust her and she can do whatever. And she knows I'm not going to be upset if she does something a little wacky and it doesn't turn out the way she wants. But I got a shawl cardigan, thing. It's kind of like a duster, but it slopes back away from your legs.
And she probably loved making that thing, and she didn't have any pressure on making it perfect. Like, if you're like, yeah, just do whatever you want, she probably had a lot of enjoyment out of that.
I had that conversation when I was like, look, if you got anything you want to try or any workflows that you haven't really had a chance to experiment with, go do the thing, because I got your back, whatever. And she's like, yeah, I've been really wanting to try XYZ with this dyeing technique that I've only ever done once. And I was like, fucking run it, go. And I got the garment and it looks great and I'm super stoked.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah, so her work and her partner's work, I'll shout him out too. He's Full Grain Designs. He does leather work. Yeah. And he actually did the leather part of this pendant right here.
Man, so one of my most favorite things to do if I'm just really trying to chill out and not think of the world is watch Little King Goods on YouTube.
I don't know that person.
Well, they do leather work, and he does. It's on. I guess you would call it ASMR. He doesn't talk in it. He just has a really good camera lighting setup, and he'll go through making wallets, belts, satchels, whatever. He has a good YouTube series, and I could sit there and watch him do that for days. It is just awesomely satisfying. So I think if my old man retirement hobby. Probably be
leather work.
Yeah, leather work.
I feel like that's a real zen thing a person could get into.
Yeah, if they got their own little set of tools, like I can have my little workstation. My workstation ain't gonna be big. It's just like me.
And you can
doing
get
something
just as nerdy about that as a craft as you have. All of the vehicles you have out here.
Yeah.
Because you have a very specific set of tools that all do very specific jobs with a very unique material.
It's not a hard transition.
No, it's handwork too. You don't use a lot of machines. There's a very tactile nature to it that is really enjoyable.
Yeah.
That I see from someone that's never worked leather before.
Yeah. So watching him do that, it wasn't like I was looking at something foreign. I'm like, I have no idea how he could do that. I'm like, oh, I can easily figure this out. So it makes it a very viable retirement hobby for me.
Right.
I say that because I don't feel like I'm going to have time to do anything other than do this stuff
until
for
you retire,
long time.
Whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I'll throw in one of my YouTube suggestions now. Baumgartner Restorations. This guy,
dude, yes,
restores.
I've seen him.
Restores old paintings and all sorts of stuff too. And he is very talented videographer and does really great voiceover. When he does voiceover, he's really slick with his ads. It gets me every time. I don't see him coming. But yeah, dude, watching the process and a lot of the chemistry behind the process he'll explain too, about why you use this versus that and reversible this and non-reversible. And there are mechanical aspects because you have to frame the thing, you have to support the thing, you have to make it work to display the art that's on it or in it. And then you have all the chemistry that you have to play with to make sure that things are in a proper order for the longevity of the piece. And then you've got all the thinking around all the things in the context of making this painting last another 1,000 years or whatever it is.
Isn't that cool watching somebody do it and then going, well, I could probably do that now. I've seen you do it.
Yes, but I don't want to touch somebody's 300-year-old painting.
No, I don't either. But that's probably the best part about YouTube for me. So I am absolutely fabrication-wise, welding-wise, self-taught. And if I hadn't had YouTube and other people that were further along putting out their content out there, showing me how to do it, and Instagram is a big one, welding-wise. I don't care if you give your settings out or not, or explain it. If you just show yourself welding, I would watch it over and over and over, and then see their technique and what the puddle's doing and so on and so forth. I'm completely self-taught based upon the internet, and I think that if I can do it with no education that I paid for, that anybody can do it.
Well, from even the simplest video, there's so much information you can pull from if you know what you're trying to look at.
Yeah, and that's not even like welding. That could be for anything. Like there's so many how-tos on like everything that you can make as a basis to make into a business.
Yeah. And
it's really, 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 it's really fantastic how connected we are and how much information that we actually like share. There's always trade secrets, but there's less and less and less trade secrets. And now if I find out that someone has a trade secret, I don't really want to know how to do that particular thing, and they're not really giving away all the tea, I'm pretty certain that I'll find it eventually.
I'm going to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to find it eventually. So it's just awesome being able to have all this information at your fingertips to learn and progress yourself. Just be careful as a business that you actually don't grow too quickly, because you can outgrow yourself and how fast that you can bang out product and ended up getting yourself in a hurry or mismanage money or there's the endless amount of things that you could do to get yourself in trouble. Just do it step by step and don't get into a hurry. Don't think that you have to be Elon Musk by next year. Just do it organically and you'll enjoy it a lot more. Yeah,
there's a lot less self-induced stress on that, I would imagine.
And I'm sure that's not every field of owning your own business, but just don't be afraid to be broke for a while. I've been poor my whole life, so this was no problem.
Yeah, growing up below the poverty line teaches you some things.
Yeah, it teaches you how to live without money. So, like, now you're doing what you want to and you're still poor. It's great. You're fine. Yeah.
It's like it was before, but better now.
Yeah, now I'm doing something I enjoy.
All right, man. So when it comes to mechanical things, cars, machines, otherwise, like what really grinds your gears in the good way?
Oh, like what gets me going? What gets me excited?
Yeah, and I'm going to lead that into like what kind of mechanical influences you have. But let's answer this question first.
Okay. No, well that helps me sum it up. So I here lately have been really. Not diving into figuring out stuff, just really enjoying seeing high-end professional motorsports projects, builds. If you can go on the deep dark web and like find how a particular GT car was made, and there's usually something out there. I really enjoy seeing that. Like Indy came to Nashville this past summer.
Yep.
All of the GT pits was open. The Indy pits wasn't, but I didn't care about that at all. Like I care less looking at Indy car. I really liked looking at like the GT2, talking to the teams, talking to mechanics, looking the car over, and then me directly comparing myself in my mind to those cars. Yeah. And it was really cool. It was really neat to see the level that we're at now, but we're at now organically versus people that I assume in my mind is a extremely high level motorsports shop.
Right.
So after that, I started to just, Instagram, following the right people and seeing the right machinist and the right engine builders and the right chassis builders, the wiring harness builders. Everybody just shares their work, so you're able to just have this overload of information, and that is just extremely satisfying to see something made at like a high level. Not necessarily F1, that's like super high, but like an obtainable professional level. Yeah. I really like that. That's cool.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of shops that could put out a GT3 spec car.
There is a lot of shops, especially when you see them in person. I've seen some of the cage work on Ferrari's cars, and it looked awful. So I was like,
but it's to spec.
But it's a Ferrari. I'm like, well, if this is a Ferrari factory like built race car, I know I can do just as good, if not better. So yeah, it is. It's neat to see. It's all money. Just see where money can take someone.
Yeah. And I hate like pointing it directly at money, but that's where that shit starts.
My business is based around a hobby. If money isn't around, then I don't have a business.
Right.
And that's like the only time that it's not is if I'm making something for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like I can make tangible thing very cheaply, but making it for a bunch of other people, if the economy collapses and everybody doesn't do their hobby, I don't have a job.
Right.
It's crazy to think about that. It's kind of scary, but I'm just going along with it. I mean,
in my profession, I'm in the same boat, because if somebody decides to, or if everybody decides to stop wrapping their cars, then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
But I think we've both seen a lot of adversity in the business as automotive adjacent, or you more directly than myself, but COVID and the lockdowns and pandemic and all the stuff.
COVID was a weird thing when it comes to the automotive market. It absolutely is, but like when it happened, I was sweating. I was like, man, this business is new. And like I said, we've only been in actual business since 2018. I'm still very new in this whole situation. And I was like, crap, people are going to hold their money tight. No, I guess not. I guess the people that like wanted to spend money now had a bunch of free board time. They're like, dude, I gotta build this car today. And then they're like, they're hitting us up, wanting stuff done, and it's not stopped. If anything, COVID gave people a time to like do the things that they enjoy, and the things that they enjoy are racing cars, drifting, just having street cars, whatever, and hiring me to do stuff on them. So
now I'll say that since Knox County had its lockdown, and I went home for a couple of weeks, and everything got sorted out at my employer. It's been balls to the wall, and we haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And I find that just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm happy, but don't get me wrong. Like, it's exactly the thing none of us expected.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know, man. I'm hoping that eventually it goes back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah, what is that anymore?
I don't know if it'll just be like maybe an easier now. That's the only thing. It's just an easier now.
An easier now.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to have to say that next time. But where were we? Mechanical influences, people, things that have really got your gears turning as far as what you want to build for people, that kind of thing.
So a lot of the stuff that I think about is like, okay, what kind of hypothetical build can I do for myself? Because that's what keeps me interested in this stuff, is like the next thing. I really want to tackle a time attack car, a time attack based car. It doesn't even really have to be something that I drive to the level or the limit. I just want to make one. Another one is taking a Impreza wagon and then putting a full tube chassis underneath it with whatever I want to, because we can do that. We got a chassis table now. I can 3D scan whatever. It comes down to it. Once you can make like a tube chassis, you can just put whatever silhouette that you want on top of it. So I really like a wagon, and that sounds like a nice affordable piece of crap that I could buy for $500, store it in the back, and then whenever the time comes, cut it up. I have a Mercedes 190E out back there now that was kind of the plan for, but that's kind of changed, and I'm going to sell it. But what's getting me kind of inspired and stuff is just thinking about like the next thing I want to do after the M3 is done. And the M3 now still holds my interest very much so, because I really want to drift again. But it will be the drift car I've always wanted to like build myself with the skill set that I have at the time. And so after that itch is scratched. Yeah, I got to move on to something else. So I'm thinking probably something time attacky, something like road race style.
Man, I think hill climbs. The hill climbs really tickle my fancy.
So that one and the same in that whole like building a car to a particular spec. We could build it to that spec, and hill climbs are starting to get really popular around the U.S. And I'm here for it. I'm happy about it. That and hopefully here local-ish is supposed to be that full road course that they're supposed to build. If that happens and everything goes through with that, then my clientele list should change.
Yeah,
because we have a world-class racetrack that is not far from us. So I'm really banking on once that happens that my clientele list gets better.
Well, that having access to the places to play with the toys makes everything better.
Absolutely.
And it's a shame you can have a really nice build that is really good at what it's built to go do. Where are you gonna use it?
Yeah.
I hate that's like the question that ends the conversation sometimes.
It is. And for us, it doesn't. We have a quick answer to that. Like, we just like to build cars.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if they get used 365 days or if they get used one time for a purpose. The joy for us was creating that thing that does a purpose. The M3 is a little different because I actually want to drive it and make the crap out of it. But beyond that, I just want to build cars again. I'm a modern hot rodder. So.
Well, we can wrap it up.
You're good. No worries. How many other questions did you have?
I mean,
I want to get all to them.
I normally have a list of like 12, 15 questions, but some of them are really like visual art centric.
Yeah.
So
you're kind of shooting from the hip on this one.
Yeah, and that's fine because I wanted to sit down with you because I sort of knew what kind of guy you are. We've had some short conversations in person, when you drop cars off at the shop and stuff. And I just wanted to sit down with another car guy and talk car stuff and creative car stuff because I haven't had a real chance to do that yet. And I was happy that you said yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
this is the first podcast I've done as far as like, after having the business and whatnot. So I feel pretty good about that.
Well, awesome. So I really just want to sit down and pick your brain about, what decisions in your life sort of put you in this place to own this kind of business and how you conduct said business and just know that there are people out there like myself that appreciate that you are doing the thing.
Yeah.
And it's good, and I like watching.
I think what's pushed me to do it was I just didn't want to work for somebody else anymore. I mean, I really didn't. And now having the business, if it were to go belly up for whatever reason, I don't know what I would do after that. I guess I could use my skill set, but I don't want to not own a business. Like, I don't want to not do it for myself because it's nice. Everybody has somebody to tell them what to do, and everybody has a boss, whether they say that they do or not. Like, my clients are technically my boss.
Yeah,
like
they're the ones telling you what to do.
Yeah, they're telling me what to do, but it's different. It's different. You're doing something for them now versus and getting paid to do said service versus just mindlessly doing something and getting a paycheck.
Also, the oversight is different.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Man, I've had shit jobs. And luckily, I'm currently employed in a really nice one, in an environment that I really enjoy.
Louis is a cool boss.
Louis is a cool boss. Yeah. And he's very reasonable when we're all sitting around talking about what we should do to this damn car.
Yeah.
And he entertains our ideas. And most of the time, he lets us run with it. But other times, he has to step in and be the boss and say, all right, guys.
Does he really put down the iron fist?
It depends on the project. Like, there are obviously things that we need to stick to the letter to, because this is expected to be exactly what was on the render, blah, blah, blah. But there have been other projects where we had some free reign that, myself or another coworker or two and we've all sat down and just been over the table and looked at the car all standing next to each other and be like, we should do some of this or do some of that. You know how those conversations go.
Sure.
Sometimes after work beverages of the adult variety may or may not be involved because sometimes those conversations only happen in those scenarios.
Man, the best brainstorming happens just a couple deep, honestly.
Yeah, it really
even
does.
More than that, it starts to get ignorant. But 2 beers in, chug them real quick, then you can really spitball some good stuff.
Yeah, so that's happened. USA Cycling / Harper gave us a base model Taycan to put a reflective camo on.
Cool.
And we didn't really know, we had a general idea of what we wanted to do with it.
Is that expensive material?
And it's a pain in the ass to work with, too.
It doesn't wrap very well.
Well, you can manipulate it pretty well and get it to do things that you want it to do, but it's really picky about how it does them. And then if you move it around too much or stretch it too much, the metal that's suspended inside that is actually the reflective part, it changes pattern. You can see how it's been molested.
I see.
Yeah.
It pulls the metallic part away. Okay.
Well,
that makes sense.
It makes it less dense, so you'll have lighter areas that reflect more or less, depending on how
And at night, I guess that really pops out where those places are.
Not as much as you would think, but if you're really looking at it, then you can tell. Gotcha. One of those, gotta know what it looks like to find it sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, we were sitting around how do we finish off the back end of this car? It looks funny if it just ends right there on both sides of the trunk. So I was just let's do a stripe all the way across the trunk at this width that bridges the two main elements that come around the rear corners of the car. And, I taped some pieces up, did this or that. I was like, Lou, this is what it's going to look like. And he said, all right, go. And it did look better than just not having nothing on the trunk, and it just stopped there at the body line, the shut lines of the trunk. So that's a mild example of one of the things that we've all sort of spitballed and said, yeah, we should do that because it looks better than not having anything there at all.
I think having a business where you're able to creatively do that is nice. It's almost like a relaxing situation within a busy day of doing the same stuff.
I really enjoy the fact that in my current job scenario, I can influence these decisions, and these are the decisions that I get to influence, these automotive styling related questions. And in my previous job, it wasn't such a thing that I enjoy. It's like, oh, hey, this is the problem. How are we going to put these stage platforms together to make this shape? We've got so many platforms. Because, I used to work in the Coliseum. I was a shift lead there, working all the events and all the hockey games and all the stuff and all the logistical problems that those entail between clients and event riders, and we need this for that and it's got to go over here. Like, those technical problems are creative in their own way, but it wasn't a satisfying type of creativity that I like to practice.
At that point, you're just managing from one thing to the other.
Well, yeah, and then there's also the logistical puzzle and mental gymnastics of how do we keep the client happy if they ask for this and we deliver that, and the middle ground, the gray area shenanigans that can happen. So you had to be creative with what you knew and what tools you knew you had and what you could get. There's room there to play, but it's not the kind of play that I really enjoyed. Now, don't get me wrong, learning how to operate a Zamboni is cool as hell.
Everybody wants it. Isn't everybody's dream?
Yeah, it's a lot of people's dream.
Yeah, it is. It's the oddest dream, but if anybody was like, what is a weird childhood dream, what would it be? I'm like, oh yeah, that would definitely be to drive a Zamboni.
So to speak to this point exactly, I had a lady the other day at the hockey game. She said, I've been playing hockey for 4 years, and since day one of playing hockey, I've always wanted to ride on a Zamboni. and I currently am one of 3 people that drive the fan bony for the Ice Bears.
Yeah.
So I take the people and their kids or the birthday party or whatever out and around on the ice, while the other Zamboni is actually, conditioning the ice. Conditioning is the proper term. There's a lot of lingo around a Zamboni.
Is a Zamboni... is there multiple brands, or is the Zamboni the brand, and that's what they're all called now?
So it's like that. A Zamboni is one specific brand of the original machine, and there are other brands of that get generically called Zamboni because they do the same job.
Good for Zamboni.
I know, right? Olympia is a brand. I think there's 2 more that are kind of bottom end of the market share, but Olympia and Zamboni are the 2 big ones. But I got to make that woman's 4 years. The other day, and that was really cool. And I thanked her for doing the thing and getting on the ride, and told her to enjoy the rest of the hockey game, and really happy she could do the thing, and I was happy I had the privilege of helping her do that.
Yeah,
because it really is a privilege in those scenarios, because I didn't have to be that guy. I just happened to be that guy, and she happened to be that person, and it just worked out.
It's neat to see other people's outside looking in perspectives, because you drive them all the time, but they're boring to you now. But it blew her mind.
I worked at the Coliseum for 2.5 years before I got with AZ, and I picked that up pretty quick.
Is there a skill to it?
There is most definitely a skill set.
Is it really?
Yeah,
it's not just like you're vacuuming the ice. It's just
So here's what happens. Sorry, I don't know if y'all have heard me talk about Zamboni shenanigans before or not, but look, here's what happens. in the box that is called the conditioner that actually does all the work, you have 3 things happening. You have water going down before the blade. You have the blade that is actively shaving the ice. And then you have water going down after the blade onto a towel that then equally distributes the water behind the blade. So that's the water you see shooting out the back being left on the ice.
Yeah.
What you don't see inside the box is the wash water, which is the water that comes out before the blade. You don't see the blade, but they're 8 feet long, whatever the width of that is, minus a couple inches. They're about 8 or 9 inches wide before they get ground down and used up a lot. And they weigh 80 pounds, and they're really heavy, and they're really sharp because they're made out of T2 tool steel. They're ridiculous, hardened steel.
Do you have to use a special water, or is it just faucet water?
No, you can just use tap water. I mean, it's a city facility, so we use city water.
Okay.
But some people do get really uppity about their water if it's a private ice rink or whatever. There's a lot of ways to get nerdy about this.
They got ice rink passionate people. That's their hobby.
Listen, I haven't operated a Zamboni in over 2 years, and I still frequent Zamboni subreddits because it's a cool place to be. But
who knew?
They know.
Yeah.
That's why you can be 90 years old and still operate a Zamboni. I understand why some dude can just zen out for his whole adult life as a job. But that's what's happening in the conditioner. And On the specific model that I was using at the time, they have a different one now that's a little more user-friendly. But you have to control water flow for both of those different waters. So you have wash water before the blade, towel water after the blade, and you're controlling how much water is coming out of both of those the entire time.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you can just set it in one position with the valve and let it flow and go do your run and be done with it. But if the ice isn't level or you're trying to avoid putting a lot of water down in the corners, you have to modulate when, where, and how much for 2 different volumes of water. And then you have your blade height, which you may or may not need to modulate on this run, depending on how thick and where your eye is.
Everything would just be like computerly set, like a CNC Zamboni.
They do have like laser guided conditioners that will control how much water you're putting down and how high the blade is, but you still have to drive and hit 100% coverage, which is difficult all by itself, and you have to do that all at the same time. So you're juggling 5 different balls and trying to make sure that you don't screw up in a manner that means you have to come back around and hit another strike.
Oh man.
It is difficult. It is not easy to learn, but if you have a feel, it's one of those things.
I can see why people can like nerd out on it.
It's a really strange occupation in the way that if you're a person that gets really involved in process oriented tasks, then you can do this until the end of your days. Like I said, I totally understand how you can be 90 years old and still operate a Zamboni.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll never not be stoked about having operated or knowing how to operate a Zamboni. Like it's going to be one of those things that I'm always really cool with.
I wonder if anybody's ever obsessed about a Zamboni so much that they just bought one without having an ice rink to put it on. They just
I guarantee it, dude. I can almost promise that has happened.
They just turn on their like garage light and they just sit there and crack open a 6-pack and just stare at it.
Well, if you don't, if you have just normal street tires, which they have like all-terrain truck tires on them most of the time, and they're studded. But if you just put non-studded street tires on this thing, it's like a giant lawnmower. Like it's all hydraulic. The engine, the internal combustion engine that's actually in this thing, drives a hydraulic pump that drives everything.
I'll bet there's a YouTube video somewhere of somebody modifying a Zamboni.
If anybody dropped ridiculous. A twin turbo V8 in a Zamboni, I'm gonna shit.
There's a lot of room for it. You probably could.
Dude, there is a lot of room. You take those water tanks out, and you've honestly got an area from like. If you just imagine this area, like around your desk, that's how much of an engine bay you have.
You definitely put an LS in it at least.
You can fit way more. You can fit 2 LSs in it. Quad turbo, 2-engine Zamboni,
man,
and they're all-wheel drive too, so that's cool.
And figuring out all the other bells and whistles that you have to do. God, you'd get that done so quick.
There are also 2 augers, so the snow that the blade cuts is augered vertically. Or there's one horizontal
to get rid of the excess.
So just in front of the blade, where the ice would accumulate, there's an auger that rotates towards the middle. So there's a V in the middle, and the screws go towards the middle, and then that gets shot at a vertical auger. Like it literally just throws the snow at a vertical auger.
Ooh, better question: how often do you have to maintain it? Like, do you have to call out a Zamboni professional?
There are daily, weekly, and monthly maintenance routines.
Is it just like you all fixed it, or do you have to hire someone?
So there's a company called All Star Arenas. They sell all kinds of sporting arena hardware and services and all that kind of thing, and like Zamboni maintenance is one of their things.
Man, I bet they just set their price.
Oh yeah.
There's probably only like 5 certified techs in the country, and they like set their price, I'm sure.
Well, there are other companies and Zamboni specific maintenance companies, so they have some competition, but they're the only ones that, as far as I know, and my tenure in that building, that we really cared to hand the keys to and say, hey, can you fix this?
Yeah.
Now, it's a simple machine when it comes right down to it. There's a lot of fixing that can be done without super specialized knowledge. But there are some parts that just, hand it to a guy that knows what he's doing. Like the hydraulic systems are not, they're simple as hydraulic systems, but they're not simple because they're hydraulic systems.
Right.
The double-edged sword that is. And there are a lot of valve bodies and manifolds and stuff that a lot of these hoses go to, and levers and all that stuff.
Lord, we're getting down the rabbit hole now.
Yeah, so there's all that. So, sometimes it is better to hand it off to a guy that knows what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
But for the most part, like it's, a simple set of hand tools and some elbow grease, and you can fix it.
Get it done.
Like the one that I was using at the Coliseum has a 2-liter Nissan like industrial motor in it.
Oh.
So it's nothing crazy or exotic.
You use SR, so you're replacing this pretty often?
No, I think it's
just
like,
a sea of Zambonis with spun cranks.
Yeah.
It's
It's just a 2 liter. I think they put it in like fork trucks and stuff like that. Not anything streetable. But it would be in like tug trucks and all the heavy industrial stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing where you'd find that, and it just chugs right along. And some of them are propane on internal combustion hardware.
That's what I was about to ask you, if these are all propane or like what.
Well, some of them are propane, some of them are gas.
I thought they were electric.
Some of them are. There are electric Zambonis out there now. But yeah, it's cool stuff. I like it a lot. I can get, like I said, real nerdy about it.
How much do I have to pay to drive one?
I don't know how much the Ice Bears charge for a ride, but I'm pretty sure they nor I have the insurance coverage to put you in the driver's seat. But trust me, there are a small list of people that I would love to see drive one of these.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That'd be a childhood dream.
But it's a lot like a hydrostatic lawnmower. Like, you set your throttle level, which controls the engine RPM, and then you have a forward and reverse lever, and then where you set the throttle also controls your top speed.
Okay.
So it's really simple. Really, really simple. You're just 8 feet in the air on top of like
nice
5,000 pounds of stuff.
Trying to make sure everything's just like laser level.
Yeah. But it's cool. I like it.
Yeah,
it's an interesting post in society.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're in a very niche environment doing a very niche task.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Unsung hero, but a hero nonetheless.
I don't wear a cape, but I'll take it. But Chris, man, you got the one question I usually ask at the end of all my shows is that who else do you know or would like to listen to or sit down on the other side of my microphone with in the future? Like, do you have people you would like to hear be in your shoes right now?
Oh man, the person that we were talking about right before we started this with Print House.
Yeah,
I think that would be good. I'd like to hear how a person that started a brewery got started and what they decided to do besides like just the drinking aspect. Obviously they like beer, but
Peter and his wife had an art business before that, and that influenced the whole ordeal.
Well, that makes sense because of their name. Okay, cool.
But the last time I talked to Peter, he told me that he is no longer affiliated with Print Shop, so he and his wife are back to doing artsy things now full time. Oh. So that's going to be an interesting aspect to the conversation as well. But like I said, he's always been really nice to me, and I want to sit down and have that brain picking conversation with him, much like we've done.
Somebody that's like that, and anybody that does leather work, because I'm now interested in possibly doing that in my future life. Anybody that's creative and started a business from nothing always intrigues me, because there is, like you said, 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and I listen to podcasts semi-regularly on people that started a business, and a lot of times it's because it pertains to my interests, like automotive related, but sometimes I'll get down the hole of trying to find people that just started like a wine business, and seeing their claims and stuff like that, especially if they're around the same age as me, then it relates to the time period of me growing up and things like that, so it makes more sense, and I can take what they have already learned and possibly put it into my own business and kind of move forward with that.
I did have Lou on the podcast, so he's like episode 15 or something like that. So, and we get into a little bit of that, so you might want to listen.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. I'd say we're probably on like very similar pages, because me and him both started out really close around the same time. So
yeah, he and I had a good conversation on his back porch with little Lou being the co-producer, essentially yelling, "Feed me, feed me."
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good conversation, and it gave me some insight onto the headspace of my boss when he wanted to start the business, and he moved here from the West Coast and all the jazz. So he's got a good story, and we sat down and had a good conversation.
Me and him has had a few of those. They've just been bits and pieces. You probably got like the whole story, and I've had bits and pieces over the years, because I've known Louie now for. How long has he been doing East 10 Drift? 9 years?
I think so.
Yeah, so I've known him 9 years now, which is pretty cool.
It's cool to me to see people like you in those shoes and be like, oh yeah, I remember when like year 2 East 10 Drift, and I'm just like,
I
Lou's my boss.
and I feel like I could reach out to Lou with any business problem, and he could have an opinion to my problem and maybe come up with a solution because he's been there and done that, and can give me maybe a different road to go down. So
yeah, listen to that one. You might enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And to put it out there, I would like to get you across from the microphone with both of your full-time employees and have that four-way conversation.
Oh Lord! One of them is extremely quiet. The other one is kind of like me. So once you get him going, he just goes.
Well, that's my problem in this scenario. I got to get people talking, so I can do what I can do with that. But since this business isn't only you and it is a group effort doing all the cool stuff that y'all do, I would like to pick their brains too. And I think sitting down and talking to the three of you would be a really good picture for the listeners of what it's like being here. So to speak.
I think so. I think they'd really be down for that, actually.
Well, put it out in the air, and if they smell what you're stepping in, we'll make it happen, because I don't have any set production schedule. If you call me next week and hey, the guys want to do this on Thursday, by God, I'm coming.
Yeah, we do episode 2 on this whole situation.
Yeah. So just put it out there, and I like doing more group things as well. So anytime I can get a couple people sitting around that do the same sort of thing or vastly different things, I like to get everybody in the same room and talk. In November, I had my big year-end episode with me and 4 other people that I really enjoy.
Cool.
Tanya, our lead designer at work. My buddy Kevin, he's a martial arts instructor, a muralist friend of mine, and another fellow that's just one of those crazy jack of all trades guys.
Oh, that's a good collection.
And we all sat around and did the thing and talked about art for 2 hours.
Cool.
And I really enjoyed that episode. So I want to do more group stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I said, we all bring a different aspect to the business to create as one entity. And so they all have their own perspectives to kind of shoot things by. And we all have similar-ish stories as far as our backgrounds and how we got started in automotive and motorcycle hobby. So I think it's probably honestly one thing that kind of brought us all together to work and be able to work so well is we all just have really similar backgrounds and interests. So it's really cool.
Well, yeah, put that out there and see what happens.
For sure.
Chris, tell people where they can find you.
Our website's www.risefabshop.com. Our Instagram is risefabshop. So is our Facebook page. So it's all about the same. So all you have to do is Google us. You don't even have to go on social media. You just straight Google us, and all that stuff will pop up, including pictures.
Hey, pictures!
Yeah, pictures. We're working with Hugan Media. He's going to be doing a lot of small edits. We're going to be a lot heavier in TikToks and Reels this year. That seems to be the outlet that a lot of people are kind of going towards. So we're going to make our content a little bit more enjoyable for the people. So give us a follow. Tell us if we suck. Tell us if we're doing good. I really appreciate the feedback, though, for real. So
Instagram has gotten very video heavy the last 18 months.
They have, and they announced that honestly they're going to use Reels and stuff and push Reels in your face. And I even catch myself just being on the Reels, and I'm like, holy shit, how did I get here?
Right.
Yeah, and so I get it. The only thing that downside to that is there is a lot of people that aren't videographers. There is a lot. I mean, there's a lot there is, but there's a lot that isn't. And taking a picture is simple. Editing a whole video, even if it's simply on your phone on the app, isn't necessarily for everybody.
It's a whole can of worms.
It is, and for me as a business, it takes time out of my day. So Austin's a really good friend of mine. Again, he's with Hugan Media, and he's going to be doing he's already done a lot of video edits for me in the past. All the stuff that's not been cell phone shot vlog style. Anything that looks artistic in his own way, he has been doing that for me, and he will be doing it for them this year. So he would be a good person to talk to, actually.
Well, yeah, we can have him in here too.
He would love that.
Yeah, I'll send me his contact info.
Yeah, because he's a creative videographer. His bread and butter is, of course, his weddings, like every videographer.
Right.
But you can tell when he's absolutely passionate about something. He's a car guy. He ran a season of Formula D Pro-Am years back. And his new passion and business is videography. So absolutely think you should get him on. So I'll shoot you his information, and I'll tell him myself too. And I think he'd be happy to do it.
Well, cool. I'll go ahead and say the ending spiel and wrap us up. Everybody, this has been another installment of the KAAMP. That is the Knoxville Area Artist Networking Platform. I don't always get it right. If you want to support the show, give us a listen. Tell other people to listen. Tell them to get their shit together and put this in their ear holes because they need it right there.
Absolutely.
If you want to support the podcast further, you can buy my art. I am at the Twisted Wrist on Instagram, and if you see me in public, I'm tall, redheaded, with a big old beard. I'm not hard to not hard to find. If you want to like wave a $5 bill at me and tell me it's for the podcast, that's fine too. I'll totally understand. But until then, enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
It's been a pleasure.